Then I saw her. Oh yeah, jump start. The sun was shining, as was my heart, when I noticed the new girl's star. Red hair down to there, and oh, she looked. Alright, we're going to disassemble the top and mic it along the way according to the manual, so we can split the cases, get this case off, and repair it. Next step be to take the head off. I'm going to do a little cleanup I did with a rag, and I'm going to leave the washers and O-rings and things as part of it. The head will have, when we go through the engine, we'll check it for warpage, the cylinder for wear, as well as the pistons and rings. Another technique I like is I have metallic trays, but also for sections of engines and bikes, for everything to have its own tray. It makes it easy to put it back together. So we got to pull the exhaust valve cover rod out, where we disconnect from, into the case. Okay, it'll just pop out, pulls off. Then we can take the 4 bolts out, 3 or nuts off, and pull the cylinder out. Okay, I want to show you how this comes apart. It's clipped right here, okay, which will bring it back and then slide the rod out. Careful not to bend the rod or to break the plastic, especially on our older bikes. 4 cylinder nuts are removed, 2, 3, and 4. We'll just tap it very lightly with the mallet and lift it off. A couple taps, lift straight up carefully. Have your cylinder head off. Notice the case crack. One question is, what caused that? Of course, it's down by the countershaft, and it's most likely stress from an old chain or something binding up, or the wheel binding up. We'll take and we'll mic the piston. The cylinder head we'll give a good look at. We'll check the play, and then we'll proceed to the next step of splitting the cases so we can get the case repaired. Next, we remove the carbon deposits. It's not very clean already. And then we're going to get a loop out and inspect for cracks around the spark plug hole. After that, we'll mic the surface to make sure it's still level. The variance is 0.05 millimeters. Many of the cleaning chemicals you use are super harmful to breathe. I wear a full coverage system, and even that in a ventilated area with eye protection and hand protection. So these are my beliefs. Take and mic the head. Make sure that there's no variances of more than 0.05 millimeter as the manual calls for. And right there is close. Anyway, we'll do the whole thing and we'll mark the spots that are. Going to check the piston. It's got quite a bit of scoring. Also check the pin. We're going to mic in here and see what kind of free play we have, and just get an overall view of how the engine is. The objective is to fix the case, right? As long as we're in here, let's get it right, and when we put it back together, and she'll run along. Visual inspection, and it's in decent shape. It does have some wear in the areas that it should, down around the ports and things. But the chrome ones cannot be bored. Non-chrome plated, chrome plated can. We'll leave that actually to the machine shop because the head needs to be milled.
The pistons, it's a little more worn than we would like. Probably replace that, and depending on what we decide to do with the cylinder. And then your mic here, you check the specs, and the pin you also check. It's by the numbers. Then we'll look at splitting the case. Okay, next we're going to measure the cylinder for distortion. We already did the top. And actual wear. Now we're going to clean the carbon off this. Check the piston pin. Cylinder was within spec. Disconnect the valve breather hose. Okay. Gently pull the filter out and clean the carbon deposits. You do not want to use super abrasive chemicals on this. And same here. And we'll put her back on. Filter's clean. Hose is clean. Wipe the outside off. Put her back together gently after we look in there and clean that section also. You're gonna take the piston apart, inspect it with a loop, and mic the skirt as well as the top. Mic the rings according to the manual. Piston pin. And we're also just gonna feel the bearing. We'll probably use a tie wrap to keep it in and put all new bearings in. Now, one of the tricks of getting a piston pin out is to heat the piston a little bit with your heat gun. Okay. Also, now we're going to clean everything really well after we inspected it with a loop. That's a 5-power for cracks, any type of issues, problems that we could see. Everything looks good and seems to fit good. And then we'll move on to the crankcase. Visual inspection. I'm not disassembling the power valve. Did a visual inspection though of the exhaust. There's a little bit of wear here. I think it'll be fine with the new seal. For the year of the bike, things look in pretty good shape. Piston, mic'd it, mic'd the gap. There's the piston. Okay. Mic in between. Next we're going to remove the Kickstarter, the exhaust valve actuator. We'll take some more pictures along in here, even though we have a manual. And then the clutch, and we'll get ready to split the case. I don't know if I showed you this, my ear protection. These have a little cylinder in them. Let's see, boom. It's a piece of metal, a round tube, which has been drilled with a hole clear through it. 2 different densities of metal, and then of course it's encased in the rubber. And what that does is it allows the high frequencies to come through so you can hear quite well, but it stops all the pressure that damages your hearing from different tools and engines and loud music, things like that. Pulling the Kickstarter off has turned into no joy. Unable to slide it off the shaft. Easy way to put her back together is to mark the bolt links, color code them. So blue, blue. Play a little ZZ Top while you're doing it. When you pull the clutch, you have 2, 4, 6 bolts that are spring loaded here. Okay. And then you got some small parts here. You want to make sure the bearing does not disappear. The clutch plates are in there. The rod, you know which direction it came out. We're going to go back and inspect all that and mic it all according to the manual. Then you have a, let's see what size it is, a 30 millimeter nut here, which also, if we look a little closer with some light, you'll see there's a locking washer that has to be straightened. Okay, and the whole thing will slide out. And all these tools you're seeing, or most of them, can be purchased through me, Rocky Mountain ATV. This tool is sweet. Holds the clutch and does many other things. I used it also to pull the flywheel, hold the chain earlier. Gotta love a Henson clutch basket, showing virtually no wear. Billet proof. Piston pin mic'd out good. So everything's pretty darn good on this bike, considering it's a 1999. So we pulled the exhaust valve rod out by pulling this off. Then I just put it on with a couple bolts. Here was the case crack. A big hole right there. Let me see if I got a flashlight. Until I saw that, I thought it could be welded. Now I'm not sure. The question is, what caused this? It could have been the chain binding up and torquing the heck out of it, but the chain didn't seem bound up when I took it off. So we're gonna have to look close inside. We may have a bad bearing or something, but we don't want to repeat. Alright, next step. Got the tusk case splitter on there. Gave it a few light taps around here with a mallet, and I'm going to heat it up around all the places where there's a seal which will hold it, and then we'll slowly work it off with some light taps. Make sure when you put your case splitter on that this is exactly even, the measurements all the way around, and you try to give it the leverage the farthest point out. Also understanding that the greatest compression or tightness will be through the crankshaft. We're working it with heat here. Obviously the shaft itself you do not want to heat, you want it cold. Here, down here, along the edge, and we're tapping the edge with the rubber mallet. As we come out, she's splitting quite nicely.
Then I saw her. Oh yeah, jump start. The sun was shining, as was my heart, when I noticed the new girl's star. Red hair down to there. Oh, she looked so fine. I was single, little jingle in this pocket of mine. Oh yeah, jump start, and my heart jump start.